Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm bringing you another deeply emotional episode from the life series of Ly Hoai Ca. In the previous episode, as many of you already know, a great tragedy struck. Hùng, the husband, the father, the devoted police officer, was suddenly involved in a serious accident while on duty. That night, the rain poured relentlessly, as if trying to swallow the entire sky. The wailing sound of the ambulance siren echoed through the darkness, while the red flashing lights reflected across the cold hospital windows. Outside the emergency room, Hoai Ca sat collapsed on a bench, her vacant eyes fixed on the closed door. Inside, doctors and nurses were racing against time, fighting for every second to save Hung's life. Meanwhile, outside, his wife could only clasp her trembling hands together, silently praying, tears streaming down her face, unable to speak a word. The hospital corridor was drenched in the cold glow of fluorescent lights. From behind the door came the rhythmic sound of the heart monitor, beep, 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 each note like a sharp blade cutting through the heart of the one waiting. Will Hùng make it through this critical moment? Will the promises he made about a home, about a peaceful future with Hoai Ca and Tony ever come true? Stay with me until the end of today's video, as we continue this heartbreaking yet love-filled journey, where faith and waiting are the only threads keeping hope alive. That night, almost 2 in the morning, the rain had eased, leaving only the steady sound of water dripping from the eaves onto the wet stone floor, rhythmic, like the ticking of time itself. Outside, the dim yellow glow of the streetlights filtered through the window, casting long, trembling shadows along the endless hospital corridor. The air was so cold that every breath turned into a faint white mist. Hoai Ca sat huddled on an old metal bench. Her back leaned against the wall, arms wrapped tightly around herself as if to hold her body together against the biting chill. Her clothes were still damp, her hair clung to her cheeks, thin strands matted with sweat and rain. Her face was pale, her lips cracked, and her eyes hollow from exhaustion after countless hours without sleep. Every so often, she lifted her gaze toward the operating room, where the red light above the door still burned, unblinking. Before she left home, Mother Ha had told her over the phone, voice trembling with worry, "Just focus on taking care of Hùng, dear. Don't worry about us. Tony's been sleeping well. He said he's waiting for his dad to come home." Those words, fragile yet warm, were the only thing keeping her steady. But the more she thought about them, the heavier her heart became. Somewhere far away, her little boy was sleeping soundly, while his father was fighting for his life. The hospital corridor was utterly silent. The wall clock ticked softly, filling the void between the faint patter of rain on the roof. Now and then, a nurse passed by, pushing a medicine cart that squeaked across the floor, her shadow stretching long beneath the dull lights. Everything felt as though it was moving in slow motion, quiet and heavy with sorrow. Hoai Ca bowed her head, her fingers interlaced so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Each beep, beep, from inside the operating room made her heart seize. To her, that steady sound was the only proof that Hùng was still alive. She feared the moment it might stop, so much that she didn't dare to blink, didn't dare to rest. Her gaze lifted toward the cold steel door, and she whispered into the empty air, "On Hùng, can you hear me? I'm right here, just outside. Please hold on. Don't leave me and our son." Her frail voice dissolved into the sterile air, mixing with the sharp scent of disinfectant. A nurse walked by, giving her a sympathetic glance, but said nothing. Time crawled by minute after minute. Outside, the rain had finally stopped, leaving behind only the damp scent of earth and the rustling of wind through the trees. Inside Hoai Ca's heart, everything felt numb. She had cried until her tears ran dry. All that remained was a fragile sliver of faith that the man beyond that door would make it through. A faint flash of lightning lit up the distant horizon, illuminating the sky for a fleeting moment. The light reflected in her eyes, glimmering with an ocean of love and longing. She clasped her hands together, pressing them to her chest as she whispered a silent prayer. "Please, let him come back to us. As long as he's still breathing, I'll wait no matter how long it takes." And that night, in the freezing hospital corridor, there was only one woman sitting quietly beneath the pale yellow light, her eyes fixed on the steel door, holding on to a love that refused to let go. A love clinging desperately to the fragile thread of life beyond that cold, white wall. Clack! The sharp sound echoed down the empty hallway, making Hoai Ca flinch. The steel doors of the operating room slowly swung open, and a pale white light spilled out, casting faint reflections across her weary, bloodless face. A doctor stepped forward, his white coat stained with blood, his mask soaked with sweat. His voice was hoarse and heavy with exhaustion, yet firm and clear. "Family of patient Hung, correct?" Hoai Ca leapt to her feet, almost stumbling toward him. Her voice quivered, breaking with fear and hope. Yes, that's me. Doctor, how is he? Is he still alive?" The doctor removed his goggles, exhaled a long, tired breath, and spoke slowly. "The surgery was successful for now. We managed to stop the bleeding and treat the major injuries. But..." He hesitated, a shadow crossing his eyes. "His condition is still extremely critical. He's lost a great deal of blood and has severe trauma to the head and chest. The next 48 hours will be decisive." The words hit Hoai Ca like a physical blow. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed to the cold floor, both hands covering her face. Tears streamed down, splashing onto the tiles and vanishing like salt into mist. Her voice cracked through sobs. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you for keeping him alive." The air around her seemed to grow heavier. From behind the door, the steady beeping of the heart monitor, beep, 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 echoed faintly, each sound a fragile reminder that Hung still lingered on the edge between life and death. Then, the doors opened again. Two nurses pushed out a hospital stretcher, a white sheet covering half the man lying motionless upon it. Hung's face was pale, his head wrapped in thick bandages, a faint smear of dried blood on his cheek. His chest rose and fell shallowly beneath the oxygen tube, a fragile rhythm, like a flickering candle in the dark. Hoai Ca rushed forward. She took his hand cold as ice, but still faintly warm beneath her trembling fingers. That small trace of warmth pierced her chest like a blade, and tears spilled down her cheeks once more. "On Hung, can you hear me? I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Her delicate hands clasped his tightly, so firmly that her knuckles turned white. No one spoke. Only the weak sound of his breathing, mingled with the steady beep, 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 fragile, yet more precious than any word. The doctor stepped closer, resting a gentle hand on her shoulder, his tone soft but resolute. "He needs rest now. What matters most is your strength. He'll need you more than ever." Hoai Ca nodded, wiping her tears, though her gaze never left her husband's face. She followed the stretcher down the hall to the recovery room, standing outside the glass window, watching him lie there, silent and still, as fragile as a dream that could vanish at any moment. Outside, dawn was breaking. After the long, freezing night, the first rays of morning light filtered through the hospital window, falling softly across the pale face of the unconscious police officer. The light glimmered in Hoai Ca's tear-filled eyes, where faith and hope began to flicker once again, faint but unyielding. She whispered, like a vow carried on the quiet morning air, You must live Hung for me, for Tony, and for the promise you made to us." Beyond the window, the sky slowly brightened, shades of pale blue seeping through the thinning clouds. A new day was beginning, and with it, a fragile yet steadfast hope that love, no matter how faint, would endure. The next morning, sunlight finally broke through after many gray, heavy days. Soft golden rays streamed through the glass window, spilling across the white-tiled floor of the quiet hospital room. Hoai Ca had just managed to doze off for a moment when a gentle knock sounded on the door. It was Tan, Hung's colleague and teammate. He stepped inside carrying a container of warm porridge and a few neatly folded sets of clean clothes in a plastic bag. His face looked gaunt after many sleepless nights, dark circles shadowing eyes filled with worry, the kind shared by everyone waiting back at the station. He set the things down on the table, speaking in a low, weary voice, roughened by emotion. "Everyone at the unit's been worried about Hung. We've been taking turns on night shifts. Please, just stay here and take care of him. We'll handle everything else." Hoai Ca stood up and bowed slightly, her voice trembling. "Thank you, Tan. Thank you, everyone. He'll be okay, right?" Tan looked over at his motionless comrade, pale, breathing weakly through an oxygen tube, then gave a small, steady nod. "Yeah, Hung's strong. He's been through worse before. As long as you're here with him, he'll find his way back." He left quietly, the door closing softly behind him, leaving behind the faint scent of warm rice porridge mixed with disinfectant. Hoai Ca sat down, quickly ate the sticky rice he'd brought, and returned to her place by the bed. Morning light slanted across Hung's pale face, glinting on the foreline and the white blanket, filling the room with a bittersweet calm. The first few days passed heavily. Hung remained still, silent. Each night, when the hallways were hushed save for the soft whir of the ventilator and the steady beep, beep of the heart monitor, Hoai Ca sat beside him, talking as though he could hear. She told him that Mother Ha was still healthy and called every morning to remind her to eat properly. She told him that Tony had just learned to say, "Ba, Dad," after hearing his voice again in an old recording. And she told him about their little house back home, the one they had promised to repaint together once the rainy season ended. Her voice was soft, sometimes trembling, but filled with patience and quiet faith, like a prayer whispered into the night. "You promised, remember? You said you'd come home soon. So wake up, please. Don't make me and our son wait anymore." A tear slipped down her cheek, falling onto his hand, the same hand that had once shielded her through so many storms. She grasped it tightly, praying to feel even the faintest sign of life. And then, the miracle happened. His finger moved. So faintly, but unmistakably. She froze. Her whole body trembled. Her heart stopped for a beat. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "On Hung, you moved. Doctor. Doctor." The door burst open as nurses hurried in. Machines beeped rapidly, their readings flickering. The doctor leaned over, scanning the monitors, then finally exhaled, his voice calm but warmer now. "Good, he's responding. Reflexes are returning. This is a very positive sign." Hoai Ca's tears fell freely as she looked at her husband. The sunlight from the window bathed Hung's face in a golden glow. Even his pale lips seemed to regain a faint hint of color. She smiled through her tears, clutching his hand tighter. "See? I knew it. I knew you wouldn't leave us behind." The room fell silent again, only the rhythmic beeping and his soft, fragile breathing remained. Outside, the sky was a clear, brilliant blue, as if the whole world, at last, had let out a sigh of relief. Hoai Ca burst into tears, her sobs breaking free after endless days of silent fear and sleepless nights. She held tightly onto the hand of the man she loved, the same hand that had once protected her, that had guided her through every storm. Hùng had not yet fully awakened, but his heartbeat was stronger, his breathing steady again. The pale whiteness of his face was slowly giving way to a soft, healthy pink. The evening light streamed through the hospital window, casting a warm glow across his cheeks, filling the whole room with a quiet, tender peace. Resting her head against the edge of the bed, Hoai Ca whispered, her voice trembling. "I knew it. You'd never leave me and Tony behind." She smiled through her tears, the faint curve of her lips glowing like sunlight through the rain. Outside the window, the sky after the storm was crystal clear. The last golden rays of daylight filtered through the leaves, glinting on the face of the young woman sitting there, her eyes darkened with exhaustion, yet burning bright with faith and love that refused to fade. In the days that followed, Hùng slowly recovered. The wounds on his head and chest still ached, but his spirit was stronger with each passing morning. Every time he opened his eyes, he saw Hoai Ca sitting by his side, a warm towel in her hands, gently wiping his forehead, her smile soft and full of calm. It was her strength, her steadfast love, that became the truest medicine, pulling him back from the pain. One morning, as the sun filtered gently through the window, Hùng spoke in a hoarse but steady voice. "Go home, Hoai Ca. Tony's still little. He needs his mother. I'm getting better, really. I can take care of myself now. Tan's here with me. He'll help out. Please, go home to our boy. I'll feel better knowing you're both safe." Hoai Ca looked at him, worry filling her eyes. "But you're still weak. I'm afraid no one will take care of you properly." He smiled, calm, gentle, but firm. "I'm a police officer, remember? A few bruises can't stop me. Go home. Tony needs you more than I do. If you and our son are safe, I'll heal faster." She bit her lip, then nodded slowly. He was right, her child had been without her for days, and Mother Ha was getting old. After speaking with the doctor and leaving a few belongings for Aunt Tan to look after, she finally allowed herself to go home. Before leaving, she turned back. Through the glass window, Hùng sat up on the bed, smiling gently and waving at her, the sunlight of morning soft on his face. A week later, Hùng was discharged from the hospital. Aunt Tan brought him home to stay for a few days while he recovered. The two comrades talked quietly, sometimes in long silences, sipping tea and listening to the wind rustle through the trees outside. Though Hung's body was still frail, the sharp, determined light in his eyes had returned. That afternoon, Hoai Ca called. Her voice on the phone was warm and full of emotion. "Tony keeps asking when his dad's coming home. Please rest and get better soon. We're all waiting for you." Hùng chuckled softly, his voice low and gentle like the last light of day. "Tell him I'll be home soon. I still owe you both a walk by the river, don't I?" And a few days later, Hùng returned to work. The wounds had healed, leaving only a small scar at his temple, a reminder of how close he had come to death. But something inside him had changed. A deep calm, a greater appreciation for life. And above all, a quiet gratitude for the woman who had sat through the longest, darkest night, waiting for him to come back to the light. The golden sunset bathed the small courtyard, its light spilling across the faces of the three warm and serene, like a painting of peace after the storm. Behind them, the sky blazed crimson, as if carrying the same fire of love and resilience that had never gone out. There are storms in life that seem strong enough to wash everything away. But as long as there is faith and someone left to love, then no matter how long the night may be, the dawn will always return. Stay tuned for the next episode, the day Hùng returns to duty, when he and his comrades revisit the place where the accident occurred, unaware that a new twist of fate is quietly waiting ahead.
chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hiện tại thì mình hoàn thành xong video về câu chuyện của Ly Hoai Ca và Hùng. Đây, như mọi người cũng đã thấy là hiện tại mình đang hoàn thành những bước cuối cùng về phần hình ảnh. Sau đó là mình sẽ làm nội dung. Nội dung thì mình đã viết sẵn rồi nên là bây giờ mình chỉ có xuất âm thanh nữa là mình sẽ ghép vào phần nội ảnh. Phần hình ảnh nữa là mình sẽ nối cái video 1 phút đuôi này vào, là mình sẽ bắt đầu chỉnh sửa thêm một vài hiệu ứng là mình sẽ đăng lên. Thì mình hy vọng là video này có thể mang đến những niềm vui cho mọi người và mong rằng mọi người sẽ ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn, theo dõi những video của mình nhiều hơn. Và kênh mình thì sẽ cố gắng ra video đều đặn và mình sẽ có 2 khung giờ để lên video, một là 7 giờ tối, hai là 7 giờ sáng. Và mong rằng sẽ được gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo. Tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại.